All right, so additional results around increased credit recovery access. This year, with the support and leadership of content teachers in English language arts and math, we built credit recovery courses that align to the rigor of proficiency needed for students to advance their learning. And we built credit recovery programs within the high schools so that students could receive immediate interventions and, of course, no longer have to transfer to another school for that support. We also completed the same process for our social studies courses with our teachers for U.S. history and government at our last Teacher Professional Development Day on March the 6th. I'm pleased to share that actually my timing for them, I thought it would take until May for us to complete that work, and they were able to work really hard together on that day, and they completed it much earlier. As a result, we'll be able to provide even more credit recovery courses for our students. A part of our graduation initiative work is to provide immediate interventions and as early as possible. Thus, we used the on-time graduation plans for each senior that the school counselors and administrators created to quickly identify students who needed credit recovery. We were able to better enroll these students into a credit recovery course immediately when they needed that support. Northridge increased its total credits recovered from 10 for all of the last school year. So all of last school year, Northridge had 10 credits recovered in their program. And as of March 1st, they're already up to 76. West increased from 44 from all of last year up to 80 as of March 1st. Central has not yet seen this increase. A couple of reasons. We dug into what's going on, what's happening there, for a couple of reasons. We moved from one platform of using GradPoint to a new platform, Edgenuity, so there's a little bit of a learning curve. Plus there is a new teacher who has been working really hard in helping understanding what the program is and how to quickly identify and enroll students into it. But I am pleased to say that at this point, Central is in a much better place, and I anticipate that those numbers are going to skyrocket just like the other two schools. Okay, so although we have created graduation plans for every senior and we've prioritized our enrollments at Jefferson High and Gap and done a lot more, we still have, unfortunately, hundreds of students who drop out each year. And they don't graduate on time, and they are allowed to stay up until the age of 21. But the reality is a 20-year-old, a 21-year-old does not want to stay in school. And so the number that we're looking at when we look at how many of our students each year are dropping out, it ranges between 325 and 350 students each year. That is unacceptable. And it's the graduation initiative's responsibility with the support of our community to change that number. We need to provide these students additional options beyond what we are currently providing them. The graduation initiative team also re-envisioned what summer school can and should be for students. In the past, summer school was hosted at one location. And so if you were interested in going to summer school, you traveled to that location. And that in itself was a barrier for a lot of students. Not so much the traveling, even though that can be a barrier, but it's the not knowing that other school that you might be going to. It's the relationship piece. And we know that one of the top indicators for success is having a relationship with your teacher and your counselor. And so this year when we were looking at, okay, well, we know that. We are the system, so let's change it. And that's what our principals did. They each said, we want to host summer school at our own site. And so Central, West, Northridge, Jefferson High, and Early College Academy are each hosting their own summer school where they're immediately right now working with students to determine who would be good candidates, best fit, opening it up to all their students, staying on top of them to make sure that they come to summer school. It's going to be a much better model than signing up a student and then, in a way, handing them off to another site to take care of them over the summer. They'll also have the support of a counselor during summer school, so they'll be able to not only monitor their credits and see how their attendance, but to make more one-on-one connections with kids during summertime. So in the process of redesigning summer school, we looked at our incoming students to high school. So a freshman transition program is now designed, and it was in the process of being implemented this summer. So a freshman transition program, it is honestly one of the top things you can do to impact an on-time graduation rate and a dropout rate. In itself, it is one event of having that freshman transition of incoming freshmen. But the way that it gets the better results is if you cohort those students together with that summer school teacher into an ongoing program throughout that freshman year and throughout their 4 years. And so we're able to do that because of the advisory programs that each of our high schools are developing. Some of them have them in place this year, and all of them will have them in place next year. So the freshman transition program, yes, it is a little bit about some math and some literacy skill development using the digital content. It is largely about building a relationship with your high school teachers, with other students who you might not know because you might be coming from one middle school and now you're going to go into this big environment, and helping with that transition year so that our kids don't get lost and fall between the cracks. It is a way to immediately identify students who would need that additional support before August even begins. And so each of the 3 comprehensive schools and Jefferson High are going to work to identify 45 students, incoming freshmen. And the criteria that we're looking at is the student who, it's not necessarily your A or B student, it's your student who has D's, a few F's. It's that student that we know that if they have 1 or 2 F's during their freshman year, they are much more likely to have 3 to 4 F's their sophomore year and then to drop out. So since we know that, we want to change the process right now for the students who are coming into us and capture them up in a loving way right away. All right, well, we still have a lot of steps in front of us. One of our steps is to improve our multi-tiered systems of support, our early intervention system with the support of the 1 additional counselor at each of the 4 schools. We also want to ensure that our seniors and our juniors all have an on-time graduation plan. So yes, we have an on-time graduation plan for each of our seniors, so we need to make sure that we're effectively monitoring it and then adjusting the system immediately, and we want to do the same thing once we organize this very well for our seniors for each of our juniors, so that ultimately we're able to do it for every one of our students, just like the incoming freshmen, be able to help them immediately. Our third next step is to continue to expand our proficiency-based credit recovery courses. We've done English language arts, mathematics, and social studies, and so now we'd like to focus on science. Our fourth one is to increase our post-secondary enrollments in 2- and 4-year schools and increase industry certificates and or AIM certificates for viable post-graduation workforce careers. So a couple things we have in mind around our career pathways is that it's great for a student to be able to participate in a career pathway, but we want them to be able to end with either an industry certificate and or an AIM certificate that allows them, upon their choice, to immediately go into a high-skilled, high-paid, high-demand market. Plus, we want them to be able to earn concurrent enrollment courses through that process. And so we have expanded our partnership with Ames Community College. Libby Klingsmith has been wonderful in looking at our teachers' credentials and saying, wow, your teachers, they're all credentialed to teach these Ames classes, and you can do that in your building. So we don't necessarily have to send our student to another campus. We can do it at our own home schools. And when students find success that, you know what, I just took that college level class and I did pretty good, I did pretty well there, they feel more confident that they want to continue that after they graduate. So that's another one of our goals. Then we are also going to target our graduation initiative work to impact the greater district system. We will continue to evaluate and design opportunities to meet the needs of all students. Specifically, we will expand the Greeley Alternative Program, GAP, so that more students may enroll. That's one of our big work there. And we will design and implement a career and college prep for students who have dropped out so that we make a difference for the 350 students who have dropped out and who at this rate would continue to drop out each year. These steps are critical to not only meeting the goals of the graduation initiative work, but they are critical to meeting the goals of our overall strategic plan. So I'd like to thank the many amazing people who have been a part of the graduation initiative team this year. The principals, the assistant principals, the counselors, there's been district leaders. All of us have been working really hard to put these systems in place immediately for this year, as well as design what we want to do this summer and then into the next school year. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a tidal wave of information. Thanks very much. I think we're probably going to take a minute and then come up with some comments and questions.
Okay.
I think less than a minute for Ms. Solis.
So on the ninth graders the kiddos going into ninth grade, I know that there's some indicators as an eighth grader making that transition, but for some of those students, just the transition from middle school to high school is big, and although they did well in middle school, in their ninth grade year, that's kind of where it hits them. So what kind of safety net do we have for those kiddos who may not have shown anything in eighth grade, but now they're in ninth grade, and this is a lot?
That's a great question. So that we have looked at that, and one of the things that all of our high schools are putting in place, not only for the ninth graders, but 9th through 12th grade, because it can come upon any year. It also can hit a student when they take more advanced classes for the first time and they might feel overwhelmed. So each of our comprehensive schools have built in an advisory where every student participates in it, and it does focus on the relationship piece. It's a way to help monitor the progress of the students, and so a teacher would have a small cohort of students that they would get to work with all year and get to know that student. Many of the schools are designing their advisories so that that teacher stays with that group of students for all 4 years because they grow dramatically from the ninth grade to their senior year. And so within that program, the students, they're much more less likely to fall between the cracks because you have a staff member, a teacher who, those are your kids, and you want them to be successful. And if you're going to have them for all 4 years, you want to shake their hand when they walk across the stage and read their names. So that's a newer initiative that we're advancing within how we've structured our supports for our students so that every student has that support. It's not based on if you could fit into your schedule. You could take all IB classes, all advanced classes, every elective you wanted to, and it's still protected time where advisory would fit.
And then I had one more question. So when you talk about expanding the GAP program, what kind of criteria would be included in that? Will there be like an age cap or?
I think I'll take that one. It looks like. So part of what we've been looking at GAP, really for over a year now, when we look at the numbers at GAP, and we look at the number of students who are still out there, who have dropped out, who we have nowhere to bring them back into, we know that we need at least double the number of seats at GAP. So what we've done this year is, I think you all are aware, but I'll just remind you, is we really focused on the kids who we could get graduated this year before their 21st birthday. And so those students who are most emergent in terms of needing to graduate, we focused on those students coming into GAP first, which was a bit of a shift for GAP because they had been used to kind of just taking whichever kids showed up first into their program. And then we're also looking at the development of an additional expansion of GAP that would be a GED component with a career pathways component along with the traditional GAP program.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hall.
Real quick, easy one. Of the 350 approximate dropouts, what's the division between senior and freshman? Or what's the age, grade level, however you want to quantify it?
Most likely.
Yeah, what's the percentage break across that?
So most of them are actually into their senior year when they drop out. So sometimes they're even fifth year. So our schools are doing a really great job of hanging on to them. And then they get to that point of their senior year, and oftentimes it's because they see their friends about ready to graduate, and it's too much of a barrier for them to feel like I want to continue into that fifth year. So that's where we see our largest dropout number occur, is at that senior year.
So you heard Dr. Hannaford talk a lot about those early interventions and really working on those early interventions. In many cases, we're hanging on to kids for too long in that traditional large comprehensive high school, and they actually need an intervention in a smaller setting much earlier than what they've been getting. And so that's some of the work that we're doing as well.
Thank you. Mr. Hafley.
Thank you very much for your effort. This is very important and very challenging work, and we appreciate what you're doing. You talk about advisory, and, I was at the high school level for a long time, and for some people, that's very intuitive, the idea of classes, relationships, contacting parents, that kind of things. But I'm afraid the vast majority of high school teachers are either afraid of it or they don't understand how to do it. So you're going to establish a set of expectations or curricula that don't overwhelm them, but at the same time help them?
Yes, that is a great question. And that's a very true reality where we have different strengths, and maybe we're very, expert level at teaching a certain content or making connections with certain groups of kids. And this is an opportunity where you're not teaching your expert content, or you're not quite sure who your cohort of students might be that you would be working with throughout the whole year. And so we're in the process of designing what the curriculum would be and training our teachers in advance so that they would feel comfortable with that curriculum. A lot of the curriculum sometimes, like for instance at the junior year, would be around college searches and scholarship writing, and a lot of teachers feel really confident in that, but maybe not some others, because it can go the other way too, outside of the relationship piece. And so one of the models that we can explore is this idea of having sister advisories. So for instance, if you were an advisory teacher and I was an advisory teacher, we could be partnered together. And so that if there was an area that you felt more comfortable in presenting, you could help me with my side of it, and vice versa. As well as our counselors are all available during this time. And so part of the model includes that if you would like to have a counselor come in and help lead that piece of the curriculum, then you're not on your own to try to figure it out or wing it.
So what Dr. Hannaford won't tell you, because she's so modest, is that in her previous setting, she worked with her staff to bring in advisory at all 4 levels, and did so very intentionally and very strategically and very successfully. So I have all the confidence in the world in her ability to lead our high school principals in doing this work. And you're right, Mr. Hafley, it is complex work implementing an advisory, and I've seen it go wrong just as often as I've seen it work. But I'm confident we have the right person leading this work to make sure it's successful.
Well, I guess just about the last comment, seeing no other comments available here, is that as a recovering high school teacher from many years ago, I have to concur that this would be a real change in my teaching. This would have to be a real strong adjustment to what my daily life would be like. And it's essential based on the information you're sharing, but it's not something that won't take a little bit of effort. So I'm excited that our professionals are looking at ways to pull this magic into our district and make sure that we're providing all the academic services necessary, but also that other part that makes this a real possible, obtainable goal for our students, and they see it every day when they see an adult that's supporting of them. So, Dr. Pilch.
May I?
Please,
Thank you.
You're all ready.
So, Dr. Hannaford and I both have had the privilege of leading high schools between us for over 2 decades, between the two of us. And what I want you to know about our high schools here in District 6 is I have never worked with high school leadership, so that being principals, assistant principals, the counselors, and their building leadership teams, their department chairs. I have never worked with folks so willing and so capable and so eager to do the right work for students. And really what I think they have been craving has been the vision and the direction and leadership to do that work. And I've been amazed at how quickly this work has moved. I mean, and when we, in previous settings, what I have seen is we'd have one high school pilot something and then the other high schools would come along. What happens here is we get one high school going and the others are saying, wait for me, I want to go too. Where are the resources for me to go to? And so as Dr. Hannaford mentioned at the beginning that the failure of our mill levy override has impacted our ability to expand this work, she's absolutely right, because our high schools, they want to fly with this work and they are ready to go. So thank you for letting me close up with that.
Thank you for doing so. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen on the board? Thank you very much, Rhonda, very much thanks. And thanks for presenting a similar presentation to our Citizens Academy today over lunch, and that was equally exciting. I feel like I learned it after 2 times, so thank you. The next item on our agenda is the employee benefits renewal. Dr. Pilch, I think I should, while we're getting our team ready, I'll now accept a motion to approve the employee benefit renewal package.
I move that the Board of Education of Weld County School District 6 approve the insurance renewal as presented and authorize the officers to sign any and all contracts.
Second.
A double dose of second is acceptable. Dr. Pilch.
Well, you see that Ms. Sponsler has already made her way to the podium to introduce this item, and we've been at it a while tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and let her get started. It's mostly good news.
Thank you, Dr. Pilch, members of the board. Usually I have a whole bunch of people here with me to help present, and you might be going, that's kind of strange. And I had to say, when I was putting this presentation together, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, there's not much to this presentation, but inside this presentation, some fantastic news. So I'll get started. As you know, we have a benefits committee, and that committee is outlined in the master contract. This year, the committee was very small, and we only had to have 1 meeting, so it worked out really, really well. So our recommendations that we are bringing forward to you as a committee are to renew our medical coverage with Aetna. We currently have 4 options, and we would maintain those 4 options. And as you know, the district covers 100% of the employee-only cost for one of those plans. And then if the employee chooses to buy up into another plan, they pay that difference. The plan designs would stay the same. So the dollars and cents, I just loved this little dancing zero. We have no increase in cost this year. And that's just, I think it's unheard of, and it's just remarkable. So we're doing some things right, and so you might ask, well, what are you doing to keep costs that way? We have formed a very unique partnership with Aetna and with Banner Health here in Greeley. And so we have a plan where Aetna, Banner, and the district, we meet regularly, and we coordinate benefits, and if something comes up and we have issues, we talk to each other. And you know, it's not always the answer that we want to hear, but at least we're talking about it, and at least we have a commitment with the 3 of us to address whatever that issue is. I've just been so amazed at how Aetna has been responsive to our needs and to our questions. And if we have a situation where we need an exception to the rule, they're willing to work with us. And I think that's very unusual with an insurance company, especially the size of Aetna. Banner has been a wonderful partner, and I think the 3 of us working together to share information with our employees, to Banner controlling costs and working with Aetna to identify risks and, you know, our employees or dependents that have high-risk claims. We're monitoring those things, and we're trying to be proactive. And so that's paying off with a 0% renewal. So the dental coverage recommendation is also to renew with Aetna. As you might remember, this is a self-insured dental plan, and so we have seen where our claims cost is kind of tipping over the premiums that we bring into our plan, so we need to adjust the rates a little bit. So the rates will be going from $28.49 per employee per month to $31, so just a slight increase there. Our vision coverage recommendation is to renew with iMed Vision Care, and again, no changes to the current plan and no changes to the rates. And finally, the life insurance coverage is to renew with Aetna. Again, no changes to the rates or to the plan. So that's really all I have to present. I do want to share with you that we are trying something new this year. So on April 6th, we will be having our first ever benefits fair. We will have representatives from Aetna, we'll have Banner representatives there, we will have people from the city of Greeley, of course our nutrition and wellness departments will be there. We have people from para and our different retirement providers that are coming. We have information on College Invest. We have a whole bunch of different people coming to really address not only the medical and dental, vision, those kinds of benefits, but also the financial, future planning, retirement system kinds of benefits that people would need information about. So we'll see how this works. We hope to have a great turnout. We have a lot of prizes, and we have some little gifts to give to those who attend. So hopefully our employees will show up. This time I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so very much. I'm sorry. Anybody got a fire to burn here?
Let's vote quickly and lock it in.
Well, I just don't want to step on anyone's tongue. I might be off script again. I don't know. It's clear that almost no increase throughout the thing is the news we would want to hear. And so, Megan, thanks for your eagle eye. Obviously, thanks for stitching things together between the three bodies of decision. And thanks for serving all of the employees of the school district, you and your staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, barring some failure on my part to read something on my script, I will say thanks for your patience, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining
We
us.
need to take a vote.
Oh, we do. See, there it is. It had to end in the same way that it started. So, once again, democracy is forced upon me. Let's go ahead with a roll call. Ms. Crane.
Mr. DeWitt,
I'm ready to say yes.
Mr. Hafley,
Aye.
Mr. Hall,
Aye.
Ms. Pappas.
Aye.
Dr. Richard,
Aye.
Mrs. Solis.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Well, now I'm just going to say goodnight to everyone, since it's the best place I can go at this time. Well, it's